society programs, peace building, and sport diplomacy programs.
Thank you, Omer.
Good morning and welcome. My name is I'm with the almost 10 years. Portfolio is art and culture. I'm in charge for all programs connected to art and culture or having the element of art and culture in them that are run or initiated or supported by the embassy.
Good morning, my name is Véronique Verber. I had the honor to work for the last 24 years in the public diplomacy section with the oversight of all financials and grant federal regulations.
Good morning, Manal Haddad. I'm also part of the public diplomacy section. I work on promoting our work within the Arab community. I work on economic growth and governance through our MEPI program and developing public-private partnership.
Thank you, everybody. So I promise you, you're all in very good hands today, okay? So let's get through this rather quickly so we can get right to your questions. I'm assuming everyone read our annual program statement. If you haven't, please do. We're not going to read it word by word today. I would bore you if I did that. So again, this year, the amount for each award generally is up to a maximum of $25,000. That doesn't mean you can't ask for more. However, generally, we do want to stay to $25,000. And if you are going to ask for more, chances are we're going to come back to you and ask you about the details of those budgets, okay? And at any point, guys, if you want to jump in and add anything, please do, all right? So that's all I'm going to highlight from page 1. I'm going to leave to you to read the purpose of the program and also what we're going to concentrate on this year, which really has not changed from last year either. So these are examples of the kind of activities that could be funded, but please read that on your own. I also want to highlight on page 2 that we do let people know what the priority program areas are there. Again, I'm not going to read it because it hasn't changed from last year. Priority programs have remained the same for this year. Do want to highlight one thing, though, even though that hasn't changed. It's really, really important for us to see this in your proposal, the target audience. So I'm going to read this. We are encouraging proposals that bring together diverse groups from across Israeli society who customarily have little to no interaction. We are going to be looking for that kind of language in your proposals when you tell us who your target audiences are. Anything to add? Not yet. Okay, good. That's page 2. Page 3. Also want to highlight this because this is really important because we don't want to waste anyone's time. So on page 3, the following types of projects that are not eligible for funding: partisan political activities, charitable development or social welfare activities, construction projects, projects that support specific religious activities or promote only one faith or religion, fundraising campaigns, lobbying for specific legislation, policies, or projects, academic research, and projects that are intended primarily for the growth or institutional development or maintenance of the applicant organization. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay, good. Also, I want to highlight on page 3 the length of the projects because we normally see projects can be as short as 1 day or up to or as long as 2 years. Welcome. And then the rest of the information here is pretty much repetitive in terms of what it is that we're looking for in terms of the amounts of the awards, the total available funding. This is always worth pointing out, even though we think the total available funding is $300,000, that can change. Vero, if you want to pipe in a little bit here, there, please do about funding.
We work with the Department of State and we need to follow the budget fluctuations. And right now we are still under continuing resolution. So we receive a portion of fundings bit by bit. So that's why we cannot commit right now to the full amount.
Okay. And then the project start dates, December 21st of this year to July 27th of next year. In a little bit, I'm going to go through the cycles because today we're talking about cycle A, but we have 3 cycles in this fiscal year for 2020. And depending on the start date of your anticipated projects, you may want to strategically decide which cycle makes the most sense for you. We can talk about that in more detail a little bit later. Okay, on page 4, We always highlight this because it's important. This is regarding cost sharing or matching. It's not required, but it's encouraged. If we see a proposal where you tell us that you have partners that are involved in cost sharing, it says something to us in terms about the buy-in you have from others, other organizations, other NGOs on your project. It also tells us something about the sustainability possibly of the project. And cost sharing is not always just money. It could also be in kind, so rentals or equipment, things along those lines. Anything else that I'm not thinking of in terms of cost sharing?
Volunteers.
Personnel, so volunteers also for cost sharing. Worth noting definitely on page 4, because we do get a lot of questions about this, and if you have a specific question to your proposal, hold on till the end. But all the projects must, no choice, but must include an American component. We are the U.S. Embassy, and the U.S. taxpayer is funding the project, so an American component in order to be eligible for funding. So here are the examples of what an American component is, and it is written broadly on purpose, although the first 2 are pretty specific. So an American citizen who is an expert, speaker, artist, athlete, etc. The use of an American cultural product, so like a film or a play or a book. And then the last one is what we use as sort of the catch-all. That's pretty broad. So engaging audiences in learning about or practicing a major American topic, such as U.S. policy, history, American values. That also is pretty broad. So those are the American components. All right, now to page 5. And we think we made this year a lot easier for everybody. And here are the changes. Actually, this is the old PDF. So if you go to our website and look again at the APS, you'll notice a slight change on this page. For individuals and for organizations, right now, as you see this PDF, they're not exactly the same, but they are on our website. So now we're asking for the same thing from individuals and organizations in terms of the PD Small Grants mandatory application form. So this year that is mandatory. And if you look at it, it actually makes your life a lot easier because we're asking you specifically for all the elements that we talked about. So what is the proposal? Who's the target audience? What's the American component? What is the mission goal that you hope to reach? All that is very specific. New this year also is we're asking you specifically for social media information. What Twitter hashtag are you going to use? What's your Facebook page? What is your social media plan? We're really interested in seeing a very thought out social media plan, and we'd like to see that in your budget as well. So think about hiring a social media expert. Think about hiring a photographer and videographer to actually show the best possible show you can of your event to the public, because it means a lot to us to see that. And we'll also work with you in your proposals in terms of what you should be using as hashtags for any event that you have that you're going to be putting on social media. Go ahead, Omer.
Those of you that have already used the application form, there are slight changes, so please use the new one. Okay?
And also what we did that I think makes life easier for everyone is this small grants budget worksheet. So if you click there, we're asking for both individuals and organizations to give us that grant budget worksheet. And the details of that worksheet, although there's space in there that asks for the details, right? We're asking you to look at section H, where we'll scroll to in a bit. But section H will give you the actual guidelines for the budget justification. It says justification here, but on the new APS, which we just changed in the last couple of days, it actually just says narrative. So I'm sorry if that's confusing. I apologize. I think it'll be less confusing when you go to the website and you see it, the new APS. It's basically the worksheet alone and not a separate narrative. Everything's going to be on that worksheet, and you're just going to be as detailed as possible on that worksheet for the budget. Does that make sense?
Just to give an example, if they say supplies, you want to have supplies. What are the supplies? You have to specify what exactly you're buying. If you're saying contractor, who are the contractors? How many? This is what we mean by narrative.
Okay. Moving on. So that's page 5. Now we're going to get to the part that none of us love talking about. So for those of you who have worked with us before, I know you're laughing, Lisa. This is either we laugh because we can't cry. It is a pain in the you-know-what to register on SAM and to get these numbers. But sadly, this is something that's required by law. We don't have a choice. So please register early. Take a look at this section. Get this unique identifier number from Dun & Bradstreet. It's called the DUNS number, which you'll need in order to register into SAM. The DUNS number is forever. The SAM has to be updated annually, and I know SAM is complicated, but there is help, so those are the numbers. We get emails all the time. These guys get bombarded with emails all the time about, oh my God, SAM is not working for us. Be patient with us, be patient with them. It's just the process. We have no choice, okay? Please, Polina.
I must say, though, that it is absolutely right that it can be really painful, but sometimes it is not. So during recent few months, I had several people who actually did it quite quickly and came back to me and said, here we go, here is our number. So, be patient, but on the other hand, it's possible, it's feasible. So. Yeah.
And just one additional note, some companies are taking advantage of the difficulties and they're asking you to pay $200, $300. So just for you to know, this is free registration. It's up to you if you want to take any assistance, but the registration for the US government is totally free. So just be aware of that.
And these companies, by the way, just like with the visas, right? Visas to the US, there are some companies that kind of help you and charge you quite a lot of money for that. So same thing with the SAM. These companies do not necessarily help, actually. Sometimes it is they can actually even damage your efforts.
Sometimes there's even a message that it's going to expire while you still
Exactly. Sometimes they give you wrong information, so we recommend do it yourself for free, no charge, and you have their help desk, etc. So yeah.
And in case anyone from home did not hear what was said in the back, what you mentioned is that sometimes you get emails saying that your number will expire, and that's not true. So be aware of the emails that you receive as well. Make sure that they're actually from SAM, right? Okay, so I had mentioned briefly about the cycles. That's what you see here. You can read through that and decide where you want to actually send your proposal, within which cycle. So we're talking about cycle A coming up right now, and those responses will go out by December 20th of 2019. But there's a cycle B and a cycle C that takes us all through 2020, okay? Now, if you remember nothing else that's said today, remember this. This is how you submit, and this is how you ask questions. So Tel Aviv grants at state.gov. Any question you want, send it there. Somebody will get back to you as soon as possible. Just be patient with us. Understand that when the cycle begins, it's going to be pretty busy around here in PD, but we'll get back to you as soon as possible, okay? And now, page 6, I'm not going to go through the criteria because I'm assuming that you have, but I do want to go through one thing on page 7, which is new this year. And to make that very clear, it is underlined and in bold. So, if you're going to ask for more than $20,000 this year for your program, you need to include a budget line that you're going to have an external evaluation. Okay, so that actual external evaluation should not exceed $6,000. Does anyone want to pipe in on any specifics regarding the external evaluation?
Just want to say, it says here, and I got some questions about it already, about whether the program accomplished its goals and whether the budget was appropriate. And some people got confused because it's a budget, and we know that usually the evaluation is about the program. It's the same evaluation that you can apply for it if the budget was appropriate or not. But the same evaluator that we know, like questionnaires or interviews, etc. But this is what we're talking about.
And if you have any specific questions about that, hold on to them, we'll get to that, okay? But that is new this year. I think it's a good way for us to see how your project actually has, if it's performed the way it's supposed to perform, if it's met its goals, and if it's worth keeping in the future or changing. So I think it's good for all of us, actually, to have that evaluation if the proposal is above $20,000. All right, so moving along, page 7, page 8. This is some standard language that we have to have there, or our lawyers will tell us that we're doing things wrong. So we'll just skip right over that because you can read it. We just want to make the lawyers happy. Page 9, again, your contacts for Tel Aviv grants at state.gov. And then this is section H. Yep, so these would be the guidelines for the budget justification. You will see that on the worksheet. This has changed also slightly because I've added one more line in there for, what was the last item that we were talking about, Vero? It was fringe benefits. So that's in there as well. I don't know why it's not here. We had it out last time. It's back in. Fringe benefits are eligible. And we can talk about that specifically if you have any questions. And now we're page 10 of 10. So it was quicker this year. quicker, more streamlined, a little easier. We're going to get to your questions, but before we do, the director of the American Center Jerusalem is here, so she's going to talk to you a little bit about the opportunities that they will also have very shortly. So Lisa, if you will.
Thanks, Jennifer.
Take that.
And thanks, everyone. Again, it's nice to see some familiar faces, some folks who've actually taken advantage of the American Center Jerusalem grant opportunities. And thank you to everyone here for giving me a quick chance to tell you that it's going to be somewhat similar to what you've just heard here today. Our timeline in Jerusalem is a little bit different. Unlike my colleagues here in Tel Aviv, I'm sorry I'm standing in front of you, we actually haven't even submitted our budget yet, so I'm further away from actually having any money to commit to grants. So our timeline is such that I anticipate that our annual program statement will be published probably in January. We will then also, at the American Center Jerusalem, have an info session similar to this one. I can clue you in and tell you I anticipate having a similar amount of money, $300,000 to $350,000, for the whole of what we would consider fiscal year 2020. Unlike the small grants here, the ones that we fund through the American Center Jerusalem need to be based in the Jerusalem area. Okay, we sort of have a larger geographic area. It goes down to the Dead Sea, it goes out to Modi'in. It's basically, for those of you who are familiar with the English Inspectorate through the Ministry of Education, that's kind of the geographic area in which we solicit grant proposals. Folks need to also have an American component, and folks also need to plan to implement at least part of the program at the American Center, which is at 19 Karen HaYesod. I'm also super happy to have finally announced, after over 2 years of announcing this and having to call it back, that as of this Sunday, we are going to be open for public hours, Sunday through Thursdays, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. So that means those of you who might want to bring, let's say, school groups in the morning and in the early afternoons, we will be able to accommodate you. And those of you who are working more with adult or high school, university populations who need evening hours, we also will be able to accommodate you. I think that is pretty much all the salient stuff about the grants and the grant opportunities. I would like to draw your attention to 2 pieces of paper that I would love for you to, not the one that's all scribbled on, but behind me. These are opportunities for programs, mostly for schools and for teachers. And so if you're interested, either because you either know some teachers or have some students or are teachers, please go ahead and take the sheets of paper, because these are the programs that we would welcome you and various Israeli audiences, actually from all over the country, to the American Center in Jerusalem. And I'll be around afterwards in case there are any specific questions.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you very much. All right, the floor is all yours for the next hour and a half. Any questions you have for our experts, so please, don't be shy. Any questions? Go ahead.
You said to consider the start date of the program when applying for cycles, but from what I understand, in past years, you have this pot of money and it becomes less and less as the year goes on. So the question...
Keep going.
As you give out grants, is it a hard, that we have to apply in a cycle that's closer to our start date, or can we apply in the beginning?
Okay, I'm going to repeat the question for those who are watching at home in case they didn't hear it, but this is regarding the cycle start dates. And the question had to do with whether or not the pot of money we have actually diminishes with each cycle. Maybe we can clarify that for her. Vera, would you like to start?
Actually, we are just following the fluctuation of the budget from the Department of State. And based on the past years, this is the opposite. The funding increases with the year going by. And the last quarter is actually the highest.
Do you understand that? Okay. Anyone else? Go ahead.
Jennifer, maybe I can just add, when you spoke about the external assessment or evaluation.
Risa, if you're going to add something, come up to the front then, because we're not going to hear you. Okay, and you can take the microphone.
Mention very quickly, you spoke about the external assessment, which is a new development in the grants program, which we've requested, and you said a maximum amount of 6,000. I would just like to add to that is maximum amount, that's the cap. There are definitely assessments through grantees that I've worked with this year for about 1,500 to 2,000. So depending on your budget, just work it out proportionally. We don't expect a grant of 20,000 or 25,000 to spend 6,000 on an external assessment. So they're definitely very, very efficient and professional assessments that can be done for a lot less. And if you need any information or guidelines on that, you're welcome to speak to me as well.
So Risa Levy, do you want to introduce yourself so people understand why?
Yeah, I'm Risa Levy. These are my colleagues. I work on the English language portfolio and embassy speaker program, people-to-people programs. I've been here many years and welcome to chat to any of you about grants or anything else for that matter. Thank you.
Elaborate on what you mean by assessment.
It's an external assessment or evaluation of the grant. So what we're asking for when it's a larger grant, 25,000 or maybe a little bit above, we do expect an external assessment. So that is in addition to your reporting. Your reporting will be according to the guidelines of the grant agreement, but the assessment is external. We will ask you to enter into an agreement with an external assessor or company, and they will actually do an evaluation on the grant with benchmarks, with pre, during, post, maybe with the focus group, etc. And it's very important for us. And I think, as Jennifer said earlier on, this will also help you in getting more money, continuing with the grant, and continuing with the program. So I think it helps everybody.
The assessing body, is this a body that's recommended by the embassy?
We do not recommend any bodies, but we can definitely put you in the direction of people we know that our grantees have worked with in the past, but you're free to, but it's external, it's out of your organization.
It is very important to include this component from the very beginning of your planning, because professional evaluators or assessors, they need the baseline. They need to start before the project begins, actually, in order to have this baseline to compare afterwards what was the impact of your program on the participants. So do bear this in mind from the very, very start, from the very first stages of your planning of the program. Sometimes people think, okay, my program is about to end. Now the evaluator will, start his or her work. This is not how it works. Professionally, they need to be there from the very beginning. So it is an important new component, and we're really looking forward to see these evaluations to assess the programs better.
Thank you, Polina. Next question.
Yeah, can you give please an example for sustainable projects? Like, what is a good sustainable project for you guys?
An example of a sustainable project. I'll open it up to the panel to see if you want to talk, but I don't know if specifics would be appropriate, but I'll open it up to the panel. What do you think?
I think that before even giving an example for a sustainable project, I think it's worth highlighting how you can have a sustainable project. And on that, it's very important to build partnerships. I mean, I know an NGO is expert in one thing, but for a project to be sustainable, you really need to bring more partners to it, relevant partners to it. Because if we are not supposed, we cannot fund you again, where we don't, guarantee funding you again, then you have built, a network, a group that will be able to work with you. For example, we had a project that we worked with community centers, and the municipality was involved in a way, not really financially, but they were aware, they were involved, they had their input, they had their considerations, so they felt part of the project. After the project ends, they actually found as a good pilot, and then they continued working with it and funding it. Another sustainable project was also to start a pilot project of giving courses in entrepreneurship or in high tech. And after it was successful, the ministry itself, the Ministry of Finance, found it very interested and started putting tenders for such courses and funding these courses. So this is, samples of possible sustainability. But the core issue is to build the right partnerships from the beginning, to bring the stakeholders from the beginning, even if they're not chipping in money, but to have their voice heard and to have their, work and maybe, cooperation. That's what helps your project to be more sustainable and more impactful for the long run.
I can give another example maybe of a sustainable project in my field, which is art and culture. This was a course that we created for a group of Jewish and Arab young artists who were also very engaged in their communities. It was a course about the community art as bridge between communities, etc. And these 12 people who participated in this course was last summer actually, more than a year ago. And after the course was over, the participants, each one of them, they until now have finished 10 different projects that use the materials and the skills that they gained in this course all around the country and running. So this is one of the sustainable projects. The ripple effect is really kind of, I guess, what counts afterwards. Not the course itself, but what happens after that.
To summarize it, I think there are two ways to look at sustainability. It's either that the program itself can continue, can evolve, can develop even in the future and without the support of the US Embassy, and also that the impact of the program is there to last for the long run.
And I think part of the reason that the social media plan is so important is that would help in terms of sustainability. If you get your message out there, if you're drawing in other partners, other eyeballs, they get to see what you're doing, and then all of a sudden you have interest in the community and maybe someone else wants to come in and help. So that's why the social media plan is pretty important as well, is to get other folks in the community to see what you're doing and hopefully join in. Go ahead.
Will it be possible to ask the American Embassy to send a speaker to one of the events as part of the program to talk about American diplomacy or policy in the Middle East?
So the question was, is it possible to ask the American Embassy to send a speaker to talk about diplomacy or any other American topic? 100%. That's exactly what we want to see. If you put that in your proposal, part of what we're doing in terms of the American component is reaching out to the embassy to make sure an embassy representative comes to our events to speak about diplomacy or whatever else. We're there. And that's part of what the Embassy Speakers Project is that Risa was referring to, and something that I also oversee. So we will make available to you a volunteer from the American Embassy to touch upon whatever topic you ask for.
And that's for free. You don't add in the budget.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Our services are cheap.
I would like to add something on this. Not only you can ask for American speakers, but as an embassy, we also bring here quite a lot American artists from different fields and speakers from different fields, not necessarily from the embassy, but the speakers from the United States who are experts in different fields. And this is something that we would love to offer to different NGOs and organizations, obviously based on their fields and topics that these NGOs work on. But if you have a program, let's say I'm going back to my field, which is arts and culture, if you have a program and you would like to use art and culture as a tool in your program, do talk to me. Maybe we have at that same time an amazing American band here who can be a part of your program. Again, our services are cheap. This will be at no charge for you. So, and it can be an amazing addition or even core thing for your program as well. So be in touch with us. Yes.
Do you have a schedule? We can plan.
Well, we have some kind of a schedule which is not public. So if you have something in mind, please talk to me. Even immediately after our session here, I will be happy to give you my card, and let's be in touch.
What is public is think about the calendar year and think about Black History Month is a certain month of the year for the Americans. Think about that. So if there's something that you know that is specific to an American component, we will probably have a speaker available during that month, because that's what we do here in public diplomacy, is that we celebrate those months with an American speaker, so they'll already be in country. So that'd be a very easy way for you to add that American component, and just reach out to us and ask us if there's going to be someone around, because pretty much almost every month out of the calendar year we have someone available in country. Yes?
This is, in case anyone wants to apply as an individual, is there any restriction that we must pay attention for?
Any individual application restrictions versus organization is the question.
Yes, the first thing is that the individual cannot be a for-profit company, cannot have a for-profit company. So that's a major component.
Was there anything specific that you were thinking of besides that?
No, only not like to specify that it's not for profit. It's like for general use or the profit of general social thing.
I think what Vero meant is that this individual cannot be a company. Okay, sometimes an individual is a business. Okay, so he or she cannot be a business and apply as an individual. Okay, that's I guess this is the criteria.
Can apply within an organization frame.
It will be an organization, non-profit organization. Yeah, but it will be an organization applying, not the individual. Then he can be part of this organization.
Make sense? Okay. I'm sorry, in the back.
Yeah, for projects that are planned to take place both in Israel and the U.S., can the budget only be used in Israel? And the second question is, if there is partners that are at the government level or federal level that are part of this project, the cost of bringing them to Israel will need to be included in the budget, or we can do it as a separate budget through the embassy or through another system?
Great question. So if I remember the first part, it's if you have a organization applying that has activities in Israel and the U.S., can we fund the activities in the U.S.?
Actually, yes, that should not be a problem. Depending that this is part of the activities of the program that you are submitting. And your second questions that was related...
Before we get to the second question, Manal.
Just to clarify, if the activities are happening in the U.S., the beneficiaries needs to be Israelis. As public diplomacy, we work only with Israelis. Our mandate is to work with Israeli citizens. So if it happened to be a project that will have activities in Israel, and then maybe a program in the U.S., which, by the way, travel and exchanges, we avoid through the public diplomacy because we have other means to support that. But anyways, in general, the beneficiaries, if they're part of a program that we as a U.S. Embassy in Israel supporting, they need to be Israeli citizens. So just to make sure this is our target audience.
And then the second part of your question, can you repeat that?
Yeah, if there are partners within this program that are at the government level and federal level that need to be brought to Israel.
U.S. government?
U.S. government.
U.S. government cannot be...
In the program in Israel, do we budget their costs of bringing them to Israel within this budget? Or there are other ways of budgeting out?
U.S. government employee cannot be covered with grant money, with federal grant money.
If you want to talk to us afterwards about the specifics of this question, please do. I'm curious to see what it is that you're talking about. Okay? Go ahead. Yeah, who's coming?
Sorry, you mentioned that it's only for Israeli citizens. If the program includes also Palestinian or Muslim, can also be Israeli?
Yeah, I mean...
let me repeat that question. It's important. So are we talking about only Israeli citizens for the PD Small Grants Program? What about Palestinians?
Okay. And Lisa can continue on that. We have projects that also fund, the participant can be also Palestinians from the West Bank and Gaza, but it's usually the component of a conflict resolution project that brings people together, but not solely as a U.S. Embassy branch office in Tel Aviv. We don't fund directly just programs in the West Bank and Gaza. If they're part of the program, definitely. But adding to that, I want to give the mic to Lisa, because for the American Center in Jerusalem, they have a project that might fit your question.
Thank you. I mean, clearly everybody knows that Jerusalem is a very special case. And so we've got Palestinian residents of East Jerusalem, many of whom, or all of whom, are in schools through the Misrad HaChinuch. So it's a much blurrier situation in Jerusalem. And part of our challenges at the ACJ is to clearly coordinate with my colleagues here in Tel Aviv, but also with my colleagues literally around the block on Agron in the Palestinian Affairs Unit now to kind of navigate that space. So, certainly in the Jerusalem ACJ grants, we are more open to Palestinian residents of East Jerusalem than, so please feel free to chat with me if that's relevant.
And Omer, I think, wants to add something too.
To address those specific programs that include Palestinians from the West Bank and Israelis, we established 2 years ago another funding opportunity. It's called the Cross-Cultural Cooperation funding opportunity. And this is directly for partnership between Palestinian organization and Israeli organization. So if this is what you are working on, I recommend to address this program of funding. It will come out hopefully within the next 2 months. We are now working on it. Okay, and as Manal said, you can submit, but we will prefer definitely applications and programs that focus on Israeli citizens. We don't have the mandate to fund or support any beneficiaries that are not Israeli citizens.
Go ahead.
So thank you for this session. You said about how to build a partnership. Like you guys, that's right, you're giving us a grant, but it's a matter of time that we need to, build ourselves and fly, right? Like, and you do a lot of things. Like we went to the U.S. through you guys in the sport, like social impact, and we met the Seattle Storm. We went to the Washington University and the WNBA and all these big organizations that you guys help us to reach them. Let's say in the future, like in 2, 3, 4 years, I don't know from now, I want to do something, an event here, and to invite Seattle Storm to a basketball tournament or something, or coaches, I don't know. So in 2 or 3 years from now, if I want to do this, maybe like you guys gonna be in that picture, like through you, to discuss what we're gonna do maybe in 2 or 3 years. Or I'm going to do it on my own?
I would like to think, so the question has to do with sustainability and reaching out to other partners. I would like to think that the Seattle Storm probably has more money than we do in terms of what they can do if they have someone available to send to be a part of your program. What we can do, however, is be facilitators for as much as we can. I mean, we don't have all the contacts in the world. I'd like to think that we do, but we can certainly help facilitate. And also we want to know about this because anytime there's an American coming to Israel to participate in any one of your programs, of course we want to know. We can help amplify the message with our social media. We can be there as representatives. We can reach out to other program partners to see if they want to be involved. So yes, in any way, shape, or form that we can be involved, let us know. But in terms of helping fund that, I'm not really sure that in the case of an NBA team, that would make sense.
For example, a basketball tournament for peace, maybe here in Eilat, for example, and I mean, we are in touch as Hoops for Peace with the Seattle Storm after what will happen in the U.S. and maybe it's gonna happen to invite them. So, we as the organization, we need to start this and then to. For sure, we'll talk with you guys. But my question is, these organizations that you help us to reach them, we need to start doing things on our own, right? To communicate with them and then to bring with the idea. So this is what that's my question.
One word answer, yes.
Yeah. So
Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's exactly the example of sustainability that I see Lisa talking about there, nodding her head. Any other questions? Going once. Oh, go ahead.
Do you have any policy regarding organizations that you already supported?
Meaning what policy?
We already got a small grant.
So if you already got a small grant, can you get another one is what you're asking? Absolutely. But anyone else want to speak to that?
I just wanted to add on that. I mean, you can apply again if you received a grant before, but make sure that if you just received a grant, for example, you just received a program for the coming few months or a year, especially if you're a new organization, it makes more sense for us to know you better through this project, how you implement the project and how it's going to be resulted, than applying again for a new grant, because your chances are going to be lower because we still don't know how is this current new project running with you. So be logical when you apply again for new grant. See where your current grant is funded and how was your previous one. These are something you need to take into consideration.
I would like also to add something on this. There are some organizations that we support, few years in a row, but we ask to show that the new application has something new. It is extended, it is better, it is bigger, it is deeper, it is more innovative. We would not, in most cases, we would not support exactly the same program time and again, unless we see that it is super effective, that it is the best program ever, etc. So really be creative, be innovative, think deep and big, and At
the end of the day, it depends on the application, on the program, okay, and how it applies to our objectives. There's always the question, do we want to continue and funding those organization programs that we already invested in them in order to ensure sustainability? Yes. Do we want to allow other and new partnership, to give them the opportunity and to work with them? Also, yes. So at the end of the day, it's a competitive process and depends on the applications and how it applies to APS.
Risa, please.
Just two comments. You cannot submit more than one proposal per cycle. So that should be very clear. One proposal per cycle. If we receive more than one, we will discard the second. And the second thing is, when you speak about sustainability, I always like to think, because I do education and work a lot with teachers and students, a lot of the sustainability has to do with the facilitators or the trainers or the teachers or the experts. When you have professional development included in a program, that often carries a lot of weight. So think about professional development for those who are actually doing the instruction and those that are carrying the program forward.
We call it train the trainers. If you can add that into your proposal, it's something that we want to see for sustainability purposes. Go ahead.
So with a trainer, how much percentage of the budget is feasible to ask for translation of materials, for writing resources that then can be kept in the institution itself? For example, the trainer model will have a lot of resources. We'll have to produce like an online learning book that then can go from teacher to teacher, school to school. Is that okay to be budgeted? It's feasible that a percentage goes on that?
It's 100% feasible. To give you a number, impossible. To give you a percentage, impossible. You have to make that justification on the narrative.
Schools are considered to be organizations or
educational institution?
If they are registered as NGOs, some are registered as NGOs, some belong to the ministry, so they work with other organizations to work with them.
Okay.
Yes.
You mentioned putting in the application the work of volunteers.
Okay.
How do I actually evaluate the worth of the volunteer?
So the question had to do with putting volunteers in the application as I'm going to assume the fringe benefit part or personnel part?
As personnel, you mean?
As in kind, yes.
Yeah. How much you would pay someone to do a certain job, it's in the market. How would you, if you wanted to hire someone, how much would you pay them? And then you say, I have actually a volunteer is coming to cover that for me for free. So this can be equivalent to the cost of another personnel. And it's not just the money; it's also the idea of you're having volunteer interested in your organization. You really have good network that's supporting you. So it's even more than the cost of the dollars that you are actually saving. It's actually strengthening the impact of the organization.
Yeah, here's a little tip. Volunteerism, an American component.
Yeah.
You get that one for free. Go ahead.
So if we work with a community of refugee schools, for example, in South Tel Aviv, not technically Israeli, but if half of the beneficiaries are from Israeli schools, it's okay?
Half? Yeah, I'm confused.
If we twin schools, let's say an Israeli school, working with a school that has 400 students from 35 different countries, they're all refugees, so they have no legal status in Israel. They're not Israeli. It means automatically half of our beneficiaries do not meet the guidance of the grant.
That's right.
Okay, so to repeat that, we have a specific question. Exactly.
And is, how will you look at this project in terms of beneficiary? Because we will benefit half of the people that we impact.
You get half the money. No, I'm kidding. Actually, no, we really need to talk about that because it's important.
That would be rejected.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Public diplomacy does not cover the refugee. Public diplomacy does not cover the refugee portion. There are other programs that are taking care of refugees.
Thank you.
You're welcome. It's a great question, though. Thank you. It's come up before. Anyone else? Yes?
If you're refused in the first cycle, is it possible to reapply before the end of the year?
You'd have to, yes, you can reapply in the next cycle. Yeah. But be sure to talk to whoever whoever you have contact with in the embassy about why. Yeah. I mean, we do give feedback. Yeah. We do. We want to see everyone succeed. Sadly, we only have a certain pot of money. So sometimes it's not because your proposal wasn't good. It's just that we have our hands tied because of budget reasons. Anyone else? Ooh, we might break an hour early. We're going to stay. So if anyone has any one-on-one individual questions, please do. But let me give you one last chance to ask a question for everyone here at home. Okay, so let's break. Thank you very much, everyone, for coming today. Appreciate it. And good luck to all of you. Thank you.
Sorry, excuse me.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jenny.
Thank you.